All right, our next group is an iDesign Panama group. So instead, I just had Jillian's name, but you can introduce yourselves.
Welcome. We are Del Puente Engineering. We are part of Michigan Tech's International Senior Design Program, and I'm Jillian.
I'm Corinne.
My name's Tom.
I'm Carissa.
My name's Wes.
And our project was, we traveled to Panama for 2 weeks this past summer. We traveled to Eastern Panama, and our project is to build a pedestrian bridge over the Chuquinaki River. And so our project will be going over kind of just like some of our experiences, the community background, some of our design requirements and how we collect the data, and then we'll also tell you about some of our upcoming work, and then we'll open the floor to any questions that you might have. And so when we first went to Panama, we stayed in Panama City at first, and this is us at the Peace Corps office down there in the City of Knowledge in Panama, and so this is just like we're pointing to where we are. And so we traveled down, you can kind of see it, there's a red highway that kind of goes to that red star on the map, and that's where we went out to. We stayed in the Comarca in the Darien province of Panama, just as far east as you can go. And a Comarca is like a separate governing body in Panama where the indigenous people of Panama can live. And it's the light blue line that's in there, that is it's the area that the U.S. Embassy set for American tourists to not go past because then you get too close to Colombia and it can be really dangerous. So we're kind of close to that. And then to travel to the Comarca, we started in Panama City and we took a bus it was like a 6-hour bus ride, and it was kind of like a Greyhound bus at first. And then off of that, some of the buses that you can also take, they're kind of like these decked out school buses. They have the lights in, they're really colorful. They're interesting. But on our way there, we went through, since the security is really high because of how close we were to Colombia, we had to go through a lot of security checkpoints, and they were all guarded by people in outfits like this. And that posed to be kind of a problem due to our limited Spanish skills. We did have Carissa and Corinne, and they were able to communicate with them to get us past those checkpoints. And then once we got down to the Darien province, from the highway we weren't able to take the bus out to the port to get to the Comarca. And so we had to take either a taxi or a chiva. And a chiva is just like a truck that has benches in the back that we all get to sit in. And that's kind of like what we're in here. It's kind of like covered and it's just kind of like that, but otherwise you can take a taxi. And then once we were at the port, this is the road that kind of leads up to the port here. And then from there, the only way to get to the Comarca is by boat through the river. So this is us in the river. And like the boats are just like little like dugout tree trunks. And then that is where we met our Peace Corps volunteer, Amber, is up there, and she was a great help to us because she like helped us gather information and meet the community.
So this was our first view of the community. The Chuquinaki River, as Jillian mentioned, is the border between the Comarca and the rest of Panama. So it's the only way for them to get outside of the Comarca. And there's also 6 communities in this particular Comarca. So we were the closest to the port in Houghton. And the Chuquinaki is very important for our community. They don't have any running water or electricity, and so during the dry season when their rain catchment barrels it doesn't rain, so they don't have much water, they end up drinking from this river. So they use it for drinking, they use it for laundry, as you can see here. They bathe in it, they defecate in it, they throw their trash in it. So this river is really disgusting, but it's very important. They use it for everything. We were able to meet with some of the community leaders, you can see in this picture, about the bridge, so we could learn what they were looking for, how it would benefit them. The 3 men in the middle here, they are 3 brothers who founded the community. It was founded in 1987 because the community they were living in was getting too large and they needed more land for their farms. So they started this one with 16 other people, and it's been growing ever since. Now there's over 250 people, and it's nearby city on the highway if they can afford that. And then they do bring in some goods for their little stores as well to sell in the community, but mainly it's subsistence farming. And then the women make really beautiful crafts, like those plates. They weave branches into plates or vases or bowls, and they sell those as well to aid with income. Here is a typical house. They're up on stilts and they're open air because the Chuquinaki floods a lot as well during the rainy season, so they're protected from that. And then the roofs are either thatched roof or zinc corrugated roof. Also, they have a school that recently, it goes up through 9th grade, so they just graduated their first 7th grade class. But there are a lot of kids. There's over 100 kids, and in a community of 250, you've got a lot of kids to send to school. So that's really a big thing. And then they also have 2 stores and 2 cantinas, which are kind of like a bar. It's kind of a big thing. And also, we're wearing the typical dress of the women. They have these skirts called purumas that they actually don't make them. They're from Japan, but that's what they wear all the time. And then the women didn't wear shoes, but the guys, they would usually wear shoes and then just like jeans and a t-shirt. So, yeah.
So where we stayed, we were fortunate enough that they let us stay in their town center, which also is where they keep their basic medical supplies for the community. So it's the enclosed building here. We did, however, use our mosquito net still because all of the windows are open to the environment. We were fortunate enough to have a composting latrine, which due to a change in climate and diet for all of us, we greatly appreciated towards the end of our trip. Yeah. But they're actually working on a composting latrine project. They're starting construction right now. So we had 1 of 2 latrines while we were there, but they're actually constructing them for individual families now. What we ate, it was something different every day. For the most part, there was a lot of rice and a lot of pasta. And then typically we got either tuna or spam within that. It all tasted pretty good. I think my favorite was hojaldras, which is fried bread. I've actually tried to make them here, and I can't do it as well as they did. I've tried. But it really was good. And one day, actually, there were children going through the community that had prepared like a coconut candy. So it was coconut cooked with sugar. It was really, really sweet. It was really good. But it was a treat for us. And then, like I said, the climate was very different than the Midwest for us. It was 80s to 90s every day with high humidity. We were fortunate enough that even though we were traveling during the rainy season, our area really didn't see that much rain, so we were able to complete all of the surveying that we needed to in a timely fashion. But that also meant that it didn't really cool down all that often, so we did periodically fan people during the day while we were standing in the sun surveying, and then at night we played a lot of euchre because no one really wanted to do anything else.
So our group was actually fortunate enough to be there during their annual festival, and during this festival they have hundreds and hundreds of people come to the community from other villages throughout the Comarca, as well as just normal Latino villages. And so it was a blast. Some of the things they did for their festival, they had this giant soccer tournament as well as a basketball tournament. Basketball is kind of interesting. Like you can see all the women in that picture. They play in skirts and they play barefoot on the concrete. Then at night they also had like a presentation at the school where all the little kids got all painted up, and they had somewhat of like a beauty pageant, I guess. And then they brought in Latino bands that started playing music at 8 o'clock at night and stopped playing at 7 o'clock the next morning. And so everyone was just up all night. Even if you wanted to sleep, you couldn't because the music was just blaring. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun, just people dancing and drinking all night. And then we woke up the next morning and took a look at that, and the entire place was just trashed. There was garbage everywhere, and all the dogs and chickens running around the other room were just having a fest.
So why is there a need for the bridge in this area? Like we said, the only way that they have continued access to or between the rest of Panama and this Comarca is through these dugout canoes, which you can move a lot of people or product. As you can see here, this was after the festival when everybody was going home, and I know we were in a canoe that you were using your hands to deflect water from actually hitting you because you were riding so low. But the reason why a bridge would be beneficial is that the only time they can ever really mass move product into the community, whether that's building materials, food, like supplies, or anything else, is during the dry season when the politicians in the area will build a temporary bridge. Typically it's very simple. It's tree trunks that they cut down, lay across the river, and then pack a gravel surface on top for driving, and they can take vehicles across. But depending on the year, they may last the whole dry season, so they'll get a couple months of use out of it. The last year, however, it got wiped out by a large tree coming down river, and it lasted a grand total of about 3 weeks. So it's not consistent, and it's not something that can be used for the majority of the year. So a bridge would allow the community members to either go to school, so continue beyond 9th grade for school, because right now parents have to house their students somewhere else and pay for their housing instead of just having like a bicycle that they could get it back and forth from Alto to home. Some of the design challenges, this area is predominantly clay, so that provides two, major concerns for the design. We have to have a much larger foundation just because you're not getting that support from the soil. And also erosion is a huge concern. As you can see here, this it's a store where the tenants will live on the upper floor, and they're not expecting it to make it through this current rainy season because the river, as it goes up, wraps around this house and it's eating away the soil below the foundation. So we will have to come up with a way to protect our own foundation for the bridge. And then, as mentioned before, the Chuganaki River changes height drastically. The volume will change by almost 100 times larger flow during the rainy season than during the dry season. So that results in a large fluctuation. The highest point that anyone remembers was during the 2010 floods, which actually were flooding the Panama Canal, brought the water up to the base of this building. So that's what we're using as our 100-year flood line, and then we will build 15 feet above that to allow for those large trees, as you saw on the last slide, to pass underneath the bridge without damage.
So the primary type of work we actually did while we were there is surveying our bridge site, building our bridge. In this picture, you can kind of see this is the area where they typically build their temporary bridge during the dry season, and it always gets wiped away. But you're using just all non-electronic survey equipment, of course, since you can't plug in your stuff and charge it at night. So it was kind of a slow process, but we got better and better at it. This is kind of showing the bridge site. Both pictures were taken actually at the exact same spot, just 180 degrees different. This kind of shows the port side that we surveyed, which was all nice and open, easy to move around in. Then once we got over to the other side, which is the Comarca side, it's all just really dense jungle. So basically what we had to do is get a guy with a machete to chop through the jungle, which you can see here. Like this tunnel is just all hacked away with a machete so that we could see the survey. And as a result of all our surveying work, we were able to make a topographic map. We got about 160 survey points to make this with. And that'll kind of help us to get different design criteria for our bridge, such as the span length as well as the height difference between planes.
As stated before, it'll be predominantly a pedestrian bridge. We'll also consider horse loading, as there are a few horses in the village that they use to carry supplies. And also the guard presence for the border patrol, they use motorcycles to get around, so we'll assume that as a load, as well as wind and earthquake loads. So here you can see a profile from our preliminary design of the bridge. The span will be 275 feet, so it's a very large bridge. The towers will need to be 50 feet tall, and those will be steel truss towers. So the typical suspension type design, you'll have the main cables going over top of the towers, and anchor blocks, which are large mass concrete. They'll provide your resistance to loads in the back, and then spanning cables with wood planking for the walking surface, as well as some extensive footings for the towers. Here, show you some before and after pictures that we were able to produce using Google SketchUp. So here's a view looking upstream at the port, and then there'd be a view after the bridge would be constructed. So you can see it's quite a ways above the low water or the current water level to allow for that flood level. Here's another view you can see. You can see the towers, and the span is quite large, so it'd be a large project. And here's one final view looking as you're walking down the bridge. So you can see the wood planks again, and then the chain link fencing for the railings to keep everything light. So this would be kind of what our preliminary design is, and we'll make a final design with drawings.
And then with some of our upcoming work, we'll be taking this preliminary design, we'll be finalizing all of our calculation, and from there we'll be updating our AutoCAD drawings, and then we're also going to be getting into our construction costs and estimating and some scheduling, and then we'll also be looking into funding sources to help make this bridge a reality for these communities. Thank you, and if you have any questions.
How long do you expect it will take to construct the bridge?
We're now working on the design. We're not quite sure with how long the construction is. We'd have to plan it out during their dry season, so they'd be able to use the temporary bridge that the politicians make, so we can get the equipment across. So it kind of just depends on how much help we can get from the communities to help make the bridge, and we have to work with that.
How long were you down there?
We were down in Panama for 2 weeks, but we were in this community only for 1 week.
So I just got back from Panama for a while, and the first thing I would say is they typically use metal plank flooring for the bridges because wood tends to wear out really quickly with the rainy season. So I don't know if you guys consider that. I think it was more sustainable, but the in-country practice is typically a metal floor. And the second thing is the perimeters are designed by Emirati people in Panama City. They draw them out. They have artists in Panama City. And then they ship them off, outsource the construction, but you can solve it.
They just told us they were made in Japan, and then women from Panama City will then bring them into the community. So there's a design every month. So
Yeah.
I think mine's an older design, but the newer it is, the better it is, the cooler it is.
That's right. The hot city.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is this the only community that would be so or are there other communities? Does the road go further?
There are 6 communities in this Comarca. Some are upriver as far as like 2 or 3 hours by boat, but then by walking distance it would only be like a half hour or so. So it would affect more than just the community we stayed at.
And are they all participating? Well, it's probably not defined, but do you plan to sort of have them all as counterparts, or how is that looking?
Hopefully, our Peace Corps volunteer is planning to meet with the leaders of the other communities as well to see if they want to be involved with the project and help out with it.
The meeting was supposed to happen at the end of September, but the overall governing body of the Comarca is going through some changes. They had a leader who passed away, so that is delaying the ability for the communities to meet themselves, just because of all of that political change right now in the area.
Last question.
Okay, I was wondering if you had an estimate for how much it's going to cost to build this, and then who would be funding that?
For as far as rough cost estimates that we have now, before we finalize our design, it's kind of a standard design. Those images are produced by Bridges of Prosperity, so they have some idea. It'd be between probably $50,000 to $60,000 for a bridge of that size. So it's a very large bridge. And then as far as funding sources, we're still working on that. We're in contact with people that are with Bridges to Prosperity, so they have some idea, and they've actually had these bridges funded, so we'd have a better idea of, you know, where potential funding sources could come from.
It better go up, if you guys want to come up, answer as you're talking real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't clear what your design objective was. Is it only for foot traffic? And how much traffic are you trying to accommodate?
Yeah, basically foot traffic, and then those couple, you know, horses that are in the community. It'd be, the big benefit is that they don't have to use gas to cross the river because they use motors on their canoes. So that, and some families aren't able to afford that. So, you know, in the Comarca, there isn't a very large population, but we feel there'd be a, you know, pretty steady flow of people and supplies going back to, you know, the larger cities.